Hello, Darol Anger.
Hello, Stash Wyslouch.
All right,
It's
here we are.
great to be here with you. Uh,
Yes, just under 2 months away from the Great Big Fiddle Hang. We are. But what is the Great Big Fiddle Hang?
oh man, well, it's a camp. It's a fiddle and guitar camp, which is great because you're going to be you knew this, but you're going to be teaching and discussing guitar stuff at the Fiddle Hang, and Bruce Molsky and I and Jenna Moynihan will be the three fiddle players who could get not be more far apart in styles, which is really exciting because um, I'm going to figure out ways to combine our styles. And this is really, it's for intermediate players, fiddle players, guitar players to and advance, just to expand their purview of just how do you play with different people that play differently, and learn some new material, of course, and just, yeah, we just going to work together, and combine ways of playing. Bruce and I have been doing this for a long time now, like 15, almost 20 years. Uh, you couldn't have got two more different fiddle players together, but we love to play together. We love each other's way of doing things, and we both learned a lot from each other. And of course, Jenna is kind of in the same boat. She's started as a Celtic player, and then she took on the old time stuff, and she can improvise. Um, so yeah, we're really just looking for flexibility. We're just gonna flex.
Yeah, yeah, and you're the great freestyle fiddle player. No style um, gets in your way, and you can kind of somehow be a chameleon and yet Darol Anger all at once. And it's going to be June 14th to the 18th, 2026. We're doing the camp in North Adams at the Mass MoCA. A world-class facility.
Yeah, that's going to be great. It's
Yeah.
not, there's not going to be any sleeping on the ground, or there could be a fire and an outdoor fire, but yeah, the digs are amazing.
Yeah, and there's private bathrooms and
Private bathrooms. Ugh. Yes, yes. I
so
should just say, put that, pin that up on the advertisement for the camp. It's not like, okay, private bathrooms will be had, and there it is.
there it is.
There's the postcard.
So check it out, freshgrassinstitute.org. Bruce Darrell's Great Big Fiddle Hang. It's going to be epic. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not even sure exactly what it's going to be like, but I know that just we're going to get together and things are going to happen, and um, it's really exciting. And I thought this would be a cool opportunity to interview you about maybe some of these processes or wherever we end up kind of going in this conversation. Just what does it even mean to combine styles? And, as far as I can tell, you're a big hero. You're one of the great heroes of the generation that have kind of, to me, opened up the door saying, you can do anything. Um, and
How well I can do it is a whole other question, but I can, yeah, get
Well,
climb
that's
way
kind of
through
that's
just
what we have
about
to
it.
kind of confront in combining styles is, where we might feel like imposters, but we're gonna try doing it, and we're interested in this stuff and we're curious about it. Um, or at least that's my take on it.
Yeah, if you love a style, I mean, you probably want to delve into it as deeply as you can, and
Yeah.
is there time in our lives, three score and ten, for every to learn every style and deeply, get into all of it, no, but should that stop us? No.
Yeah. So
So
you
yeah,
and so let's go back a little bit. So you said you're a Pacific Northwest kid. Where did
I
you grow
started
up?
out as a child, and born in a log cabin that I helped my father build, as Jack Glazer famously has said. And that's actually a fabrication. No log cabins that I know of in my family. But yeah, I'm a Pacific Northwest kid, born in Seattle, Washington. Just 10 years before that World's Fair where they built the Space Needle. And I watched them building the Space Needle as a little kid. That was cool. And yeah, it was a little bit of the Wild West out there. You know, they had boat races and stuff and float plane companies and all that kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, it's kind of, it's a little bit more like maybe like Sitka, Alaska is now, you know,
Mm.
still. But yeah, it was a great place to be a kid, you know, a lot of open spaces and trees and rain and mountains, stuff like that.
So
So,
when did California come into the picture for
oh,
you?
California happened, you know, around 1967, actually. I was in 67, I was like 14. We moved to California and moved to the San Francisco Bay Area. You know, kind of important time for the whole culture, and
Mm.
it was a shock, of course, for everybody. You know, including the people that were already living there. Yeah, things were changing pretty fast. But I was the recipient of you know, like FM radio and all the music that was happening, and that was exciting. Just being able to listen to the radio, you know, the DJs were like real cultural curators. I mean, you'd hear those guys would like they put on Shostakovich right next to Hendrix, and you know that might have been the first. And of course, the Beatles were hitting, and that whole aesthetic of like, okay, everything in the world is coming into this, and we are trying to make artistic sense of the world, you know, and that I think that stayed with me to some extent, you know, that idea that it's all out there, and it can be in here as well. You know, we're just trying to take it all in and you know, interpret it, make sense of it, and you know, find who we are in the context of everything else.
Yeah, yeah, Shostakovich next to Hendrix. I love that.
Yeah, and you know, and oh, we had Zappa and you know, all those guys, all the yeah, yeah. Which I mean, that's a pretty big, you know. I mean that's your scene completely, man. I mean, I don't the way you play guitar. You know, you're doing so much, you know, interpolation of like. I think you know you could actually probably say that your guitar style is interpolative because you're putting stuff in. You know, you're basically cutting up guitar styles and throwing them up in the air and then piecing them back together, but not randomly. You know, like with a lot of thought, and that blew my mind when I saw some of your videos on how you mathematically do this and put together. It was just a beautiful thing, and so much thought goes into that, and um, it's really wonderful. You know, it's
But so I have a question. So sometimes, like, you know, people ask me, like, oh, so you have all these influences, so how do you put them all together? And part of me doesn't really think about it at all, actually. It just, things just happen.
yeah,
And I mean, you've done so much style mixing.
yeah,
For,
but you know, like this is the same thing, man. It's like, yeah, you don't like, oh, I see this, you know, style. Here's a style, and I will now take my tweezers and I'm gonna take a piece of that style and I'm gonna put it into my, you know, into my playing. I will now construct a niche for the, you know, it's not like building like
yeah,
a shelves or something. You know, you're really, you know, this stuff has to come in, you know, just organically. And you know, if you love it, you know, it's going to get in there.
yeah, yeah. So you must have people who come to you all the time and say, how can I combine these styles? And then it's, um, people come to me with that question sometimes, and I
Mhm.
kind of think to myself,
Yeah.
well, like, so what do you tell them when they say that?
um, well, you know, this is really interesting because it kind of takes me back to the early days of, you know, the David Grisman Quintet when I got in that band, and I was thinking about the Beatles. You know, there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on in pop music at that point. although it wasn't, they really didn't talk about it so much. I guess the Beatles, people were talking about the Beatles all the time. And I mean, it was people like Dylan were, all of a sudden he was like a acoustic guitar, strumming, folk singer, and then all of a sudden he was in an electric band and all that stuff. It's where was I going with this? Yeah, I mean the fact that it was in the air, but oh man, I completely lost my train of thought there. Okay, that's what happens when you turn. I'm about to turn 73, and that's yeah. I may look good, but inside it's kind of oatmeal. So
So I come to you. I said, Daryl, I
yeah,
love the fact. I love that you have a whole career where you get with the jazz people, you get with the classical people, you get with the old time people, and you just make it happen. How do I make it happen? How do I integrate my
yeah.
Shostakovich and Jimi Hendrix?
Well, I, you gotta love it. You gotta immerse yourself in what's going on, and then there's a lot of people that feel like they have to just completely copy a lot, and just okay, well, I'm going to transcribe this entire symphony, or I'm going to try a whole solo of Charlie Parker. I've got like 20 solos of Charlie Parker, and I'm just going to be able to regurgitate that
Yeah.
stuff. And that I think that can waste time, your valuable time that you also have to be digesting stuff. And that's okay. I'm coming back to what we were talking about. And that was really interesting because like we had people on the East Coast. We had the like the New York All Stars. People like Tony Trischke and Russ Barenberg and Matt Glazer and Andy Statman and that crew. And they were like it was a fire hose of cultural stuff, styles, music styles coming at them all the time. You just walk down the street in New York, and you get the bodegas, you get the Puerto Ricos, you get the Italians, you get the Jews, you get every. You just have to walk 30 feet, and you get like 15 different, like very, intense, styles coming at you. If you just keep your ears open, the radios were coming at you, and you really hear that in those guys. Those guys were like even pre David Grisman. And of course, David is from the New York area. You those guys and you hear this like amazing, crazy quilt thing. It's like, oh, we're gonna go to we're gonna go to jazz, and then we're gonna like the next 8 bars is like and out in the West Coast, and this is you really hear this. There is a tradition, on especially in the Northern California all the way up through of people. There's a little bit more time to think about this stuff, or was, and you hear more of a digestion process, and then we definitely did that with the DGQ. We just we were using a lot of these influence stuff we loved, but we really, like we didn't even play a gig with that band for, a year basically.
Hmm.
And we were just working this stuff, and the idea of like and really, writing. David was pretty mature as a composer at that point, and Tony was coming up fast. Uh, just being able to take the time to kind of develop this stuff and kind of digest it and have it come out as something new, just have it sit, it's like compost or something like that. There was like a little composting process that was going on, that was yeah, some people might call it something else, uh, but I think that was an important part of it. Sometimes you just have to take the time for it to settle, and you're not necessarily you look for the parts. I mean, if you love Charlie Parker, well, Charlie Parker's great. He's really I mean, the problem is there's already a Charlie Parker, so you have to filter through Charlie Parker through your own lens, and that it's just not gonna. It takes as long as it takes. I mean, that's the thing, and that's something that I think as a fiddle player is really has. It's always been a huge factor for me, because violin is like it's hard to play. It's hard to, at the beginning, it's like really hard, and then at the middle, like you've been playing for a while, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's really hard to do, and then at the end, when you've been playing for like many years, it's really hard. Right? I mean, it's just, guitar, starts out easy and it gets harder.
Right, right.
Interesting. Guitar, I mean, it's just easy, just, oh, okay, there's like little lines, and, like there's
Yeah, yeah.
guardrails, all this shit, but it does,
Yeah,
as you
I've
go
never
forward.
thought of it like that, but it's so true.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea that stuff is going to take as long as it takes with violin is kind of embedded, if you've taken that on. I think guitar can be like an unpleasant surprise once you realize that
Yeah.
it's going to get harder.
Yeah. Oh, but that is so cool. I'm relating it to a lot of ideas in my head, what you're saying. Uh, yeah. Let's see. At the risk of sounding too esoteric, there's like you could think, yeah, I resonate a lot with what you're saying. Like this one path with just knowledge, there's just theory, and yeah, I know what a minor seven flat five chord is. I still, 26 years later, don't really know how to play over
Oh
one.
yeah, man, that's always a mystery for me on the guitar. Like, how do you play? What's the standard minor seven flat five shape? You know?
Yeah, yeah. But then there's the other side of it, which is just, just being a musician and just sitting with things, and things are going to
Yeah,
take as long as it takes. And if you develop, knowledge too quickly, or one of those streams more than the other, the whole thing's out of whack anyways, and you can hear that pretty clearly.
oh yeah, yeah.
And
It's yeah,
but
but I
things
think
just take as long as they take.
yeah,
How do you impart that? How do you impart that, especially on, let's say, young people, young musicians who are so eager?
yeah, they're impatient and want to have it all. I think I do have an advantage. I mean, if it's fiddle, then they've already kind of very few people just get the fiddle
Hmm.
immediately, and it's always it's a struggle kind of from day one for most people, and so. Um, they're already kind of, oh, okay, it's like that. Okay, oh, it's just like what I've been doing for the last 5 years or whatever, how long ever like that. Okay, oh, it's just good, more of the same stuff. So in a way, the fiddle is, people are psychologically somewhat prepared for the idea that it's just going to take time, to absorb, to internalize, you know, maybe take one Charlie Parker solo and then pick out the three licks that you love that really do it for you, and then isolate those and go like, okay, well, you know, maybe I mean, does it sound the same without the context? There's that step. Was it the piano player like playing an amazing minor seven flat five chord, or what? And then you kind of figure out, well, what is it about this? One bar. Could be one bar, 2 bars. Of a melody that just gets to you, and then, well, how do I internal? How do I okay, how do I play it in all the four keys that exist on a fiddle? And when I say about the four keys, I'm talking about the four hand shapes, right? And I've kind of gotten a little bit of a system where you start your scale on one of four fingers, right? There's only
Mm.
four. You've only got four of these little, guys, and one of them is even exceptionally uncooperative. But if you say, okay, well, the tonic, I'm going to start the tonic of the scale or the key aim with one. I could start with my first finger. That's the tonic. That'll be the tonic of the scale. Or I could start with my second finger, or third or fourth, And so, like key one, right, where the first finger is, and so then you have these shapes. This is not a new. This is what I discovered when I started trying to play guitar, and
Yeah, it's
I
very guitaristic what you're
yeah,
describing.
it's just like, okay, shapes, right,
Yeah,
and the guitar was great. It was a total, wow, it's like all the map is the territory, right? You can, like, it's a 1-to-1 scale map of
yeah,
your scale. So yeah, lines, dots, it's all there. With violin, it's like it's all foreshortened, and one finger is going to hide the other finger, and you can't really see. So you have to you have to imagine it all. So it's a
yeah.
lot of imaging that doesn't necessarily happen for a while. So yeah. So I always like to go back to this shape thing, and it's so interesting that like improvising string players, bowed string players, have everybody's like discovered that the shapes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's like I remember meeting David Baker, the great jazz educator, really amazing, beautiful, wonderful human being, and he had, he was the original trombone player in George Russell's group,
Hmm.
the Stream group, whatever they were calling that thing, at NEC, and he got in a car accident, and messed up his chops, and he had to switch to cello basically, and became an educator and composer, and so he famously, independently discovered on his own. Okay, frames, right? Like we play the same thing all up and down the neck, and that's it was like his big discovery. But everybody, eventually comes to that, I think, and that then you're integrating. So you're playing this lick, right? You just learn this lick, and you're playing it in different keys, and you're starting with different fingers and moving it around, and and then you start thinking about like, well, what is the content? How do I get into it? How do I, do I just wait for like 16 bars until the moment comes up when I can play the lick, and then I'll play it, and then I'll stop, and then wait for the next, so you start thinking about, how do I, how do I get there? How I get, so all this stuff takes so much time, and but at the end of it, you've integrated a way of you've learned a way of just integrating something that you love. Like whether it's a kind of a harmonic thing or a melody, a little story. Like these mini stories. It's like once upon a time. That's a lick,
Yeah.
and so uh, that's yeah. It takes a while, and I think just putting the time in, in the room, just working it, and I think that there's a lot of things about the violin, that I mean the self doubt factor. I think it can be a real advantage because you just never. I mean, the thing is up next to your face. You hear all the little problems and imperfections and all that crap. You're making deals with yourself at the beginning. Okay, well, I just want to get through the tune, so I'm gonna make a deal where I'm just gonna ignore the fact that I always play the F sharp out of tune, and I'm gonna come back to that maybe in a year, maybe 3 years, and I'm gonna
Mm.
fix that. All that kind of stuff. There's just this incredibly complicated process
Yeah.
that there's so many, and I think it's just trying to recognize all those little details and normalize them, and say, okay, this is part of the process. You're going to do this and this and this at various times, and it's going to be at a different time for everybody, but you got to do them, and you don't have to do them all at once. Is can be a liberating thing.
So then let's say like as a group, um, the Grisman Quintet. So you had this time to digest. So what did what does that look like as an ensemble? Like collectively digesting.
Oh man, well that's amazing, because yeah, again, different people are going to get stuff differently
Yeah, yeah,
faster, and yeah, there's got to be, you got to develop trust. If there's, if you've grown up with the people, then there's usually going to be a lot more trust. Although, yeah, if you're too familiar, like your siblings or something like that, you can really get,
yeah, yeah,
then there's almost too much trust because then you can like, well, like you beat up your younger brother every day for, 3 years. There's yeah, then you're like, you have to develop respect, right? So there's like all this back, these all these factors, but one of the things about that band was that David was very good at, keeping everybody kind of pointed in the same direction and, reminding everybody that what we were doing was special and it was, it was super creative and nobody else was really doing what we were doing and that people were gonna love it and this shit is gonna be huge
yeah.
someday. It just, yeah, just keeping people excited about the process even when we were grinding it out and like not getting stuff and trying to figure out, well, if you play that, then do I have to play this? And what, how is, how do I, where's the one? Like, yeah, that was a real, I mean,
Can you remember like a particularly difficult thing you had to problem solve in that group
yeah,
musically?
well, um, yeah, um, there are, between mandolin and guitar, there are, pitch differentials that just get understood and kind of something, like a mandolin. If you tune the A string, the open A string to A, perfect A, then your B note, if you're in the key of G, is always going to be really sharp.
Mm,
And then if you're trying to play a unison, like a fiddle player, you try to play a unison with the B note, and you're kind of in random access anyway because the fiddle, you never quite know what's going to come out. Um, and then the guitar player is also playing that B note, and then the B notes, like who's like just pitch wise, who are you going with at any
hmm.
particular time. Think, those kind of details, and then of course, the rhythm thing, um, is it chopping? Is it boogaloo? Is it, how is that? Is the bass player, with guitar, with bluegrass guitar, there's a lot of bass runs in the
Hmm.
guitar, and what is the bass doing there? Is the bass going to go with the guitar? Is it going to get out of the way of the guitar? Are they going to play unison? They going like what is going on there? And of course, how are you feeling it? Is the backbeat? Where is the backbeat? Is it forward, and somebody else has to like lay back? Um, that was really difficult problems for us because we didn't really have a language for it. And that was what was really interesting about. I would um, David Baker again. That guy was really helpful in that department. They kind of barnstormed through. They had these camps. They it was the Jamie Abersole deal. Play along stuff, and they had a crew there that they all taught at Bloomington, the University of Indiana at Bloomington, and they set up for a week in a college, and they'd come through and. They were at the Bay Area. They would come through and they'd send up for a week, and they'd like run classes. You'd pay to go in, um, and we were having all kinds of problems with just like who you're Russian, you're the Russian dragon thing. Who's
But
Russian, who's dragon, but
would did the Grisman Quintet all go to these camps?
no, I just went.
Oh, okay. But that's where you develop kind of
And
some
Mike Marshall,
vocabulary.
yeah. But David said something about like he just said, well, you wouldn't want Alvin Jones and like for instance Jack DeJohnette, they would fight, because Alvin expands the rhythm. So the bass player needs to be pushing,
Mm.
and Jack DeJohnette, you know, uh, contracts, compresses, right? So in that sense, the bass player is going to have to hang back. And I'm going, wow, compression, expansion, Russian dragon, Russian and dragon is pejorative. It's like a moral issue.
Yeah.
But if you're compressing and expanding, those are neutral terms which you can start, you can start negotiating around, right? So that kind of thing was a huge um, that just the idea. Okay, well, if somebody's on the front, somebody else needs on the back, and so then you're just you're aware, then you're aware, and then you start talking about it, and then you can like decide, like, well, okay, this is how I hear it, and I want to do this, and then somebody else can, oh, okay, well, okay, how is this ecology going to work, if somebody's playing it, so
Can you, is there, can you give me a string band analog of this Elvin DeGeneette
oh
thing? I
yeah,
mean,
well,
maybe with the quintet was there like a
yeah,
like
well, it's just like like one interesting thing that I've always impressed me about Tony, and of course Tony always credited J.D. Crowe, who got a lot from Jimmy Martin, who got a lot from Bill Monroe, and of course David's uh, thing goes back to Bill Monroe too. So it's like this kind of apprenticeship
yeah.
kind of vibe that is such a huge part of music, and it still exists. Um, I guess I guess I go back to Bill Monroe too, and Eric Clapton before he got tired. But yeah, like like one of the things that Tony would always do is like when like I call it turning corners, right, between the B part and the A part of a tune, or between sections, going from one section of a tune into another section of a tune. Like Tony would always expand, he would like make it real clear, and instead of like so many bands kind of they want to get into the next section, they kind of rush a little bit. So if you're like if you go into the next part, a lot of times it's like right, and it's like kind of and that's a you hear that a lot with young bands. They're gonna like compress that
Hmm.
transition, uh, especially if they're going to the chorus, because the chorus is gonna be is the big deal. Um, so, but Tony would always like open it. He'd like pull it apart, and it would be so clear. And that was very cool. But it definitely was, went against. I was kind of a, the word was zipiates. We were like Russia. Yeah, and that's part of bluegrass actually. Is it's you're always a little bit forward, but like
Yeah.
the question is who is forward, and when you hear Tony playing with his brother Larry, the mandolin player, Tony was, he was like doing the ocean wave thing, like the backwards, ocean waves, and like surging, forward during the middle of things, and then Larry would always be way
Huh.
backbeat, and David was not doing that at all. He was doing boogaloo, which was expansion. And then when he go into, he was thinking of like usually 16 bar, 32 bar cycles where he would, boogaloo for a while and then like go into a chop kind of thing.
What do you mean by boogaloo?
Oh, just like the like threes and twos
Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
bubbly, the bubbling thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so he'd do that for a while, and that was like kind of expansion. But once he got into the chop, he would like and a lot of times that was like a slingshot, because he'd start the chop back, and then over the course of the next 8 bars, the chop would move from the back of the beat to the front of the beat, and then and Tony would have to pull back gradually as David was moving forward, so you get this kind of thing. And
Yeah.
unbelievably dynamic, and you hear that stuff. It's just you don't know what's going on, but you know it's
Yeah.
like the most exciting thing you ever heard in your life. And unfortunately for like bass players, that's it's really like if you're like, for instance, a bass player who has just played with like a drummer, and like you just hear the hi-hat, and it's very clear because it's only one person. You just know where to put it. It can be confusing because like, who am I going with? Like, where's the
Hmm.
one supposed to happen? And you know, but Todd Phillips really, he had a very strong sense of the one. It's kind of like you get those kind of things where it's just so. Another example of that is Gary Burton and Chick Corea. I think is a duet, right?
Hmm.
Those guys, they were completely like you just. It was so flexible, like the one, and they would surge, they would hold back, they would like kind of compensate for each other all the time. It was just so um, complicated. And yeah, I would have hated to be a bass player in the middle of that duet. But
So how do you I feel this kind of stuff is so hard to talk about, I feel like, especially
yeah,
with people who, well, let's say more beginner players. Um,
well, people
how,
that
how do you how do you teach feeling this?
yeah, that's hard, because like you're still developing control as a beginner. You can't. It's hard to even tell, how if you're
Yeah.
a kid or not. But the metronome is a pretty useful. That's when the metronome really comes into its own because it's just it's like the worst musician in the world. It's never going to go with you. It's never going to listen to you. If you can make the metronome sound good, then you can pretty much go with anybody. I think you just really you can adjust if you can adjust to a metronome. You can adjust to just about anyone.
Hmm.
No matter how wiggly they are. So yeah, metronome work is good. Just trying to just play like, okay, how would it feel if I was and metronome on the opposite, on the on beat and on the off beat too. Use the metronome as the mandolin chop or the
Hmm.
snare drum hit. And then there's an interesting psychological thing with the metronome where if you put the metronome on the backbeat, it's almost like the metronome goes from being the dictator to the collaborator, and all of a sudden you just have a lot more freedom to put the one in the right
Hmm.
place. That's completely psychological. It's completely on our end. It has nothing to do with metronome, but it has everything to do with how humans, hear contemporary music that has a backbeat,
Hmm.
and how we react to stuff, and that's really interesting. And
Yeah.
do some of that. So where am I putting the one, in relation to the metronome, and of course that if you have metronomes in the one, then where am I putting the backbeat? I'm going to try to push the metronome. It will never speed up, but you can get a little ahead and feel how that feels, and then lay back, and it's just like, okay, how, and that again takes time. You got to hear it. It takes time. You're concentrating so hard on trying to deal with just physically, playing in this similar place every time between it takes like days just to do that, and then just a long time to just start being able to adjust or really hear what the increments are, and then once you calm down enough to just actually feel it, and just okay, well that's the feel. Okay,
Hmm.
oh okay, I just then you're in, then you just know the feel, right? But that you can't get to that unless you've just done the technical work.
Yeah. So cool. Did you ever compose solos for the Grisman Quintet?
Yeah, a lot. David suggested that to me early on. He said, "Well, a lot of those bluegrass guys, they just like made it. They had a solo, and they made it up, and they composed it, and it was like pretty much the same every time. They'd changed it a little bit, but I'm going, oh yeah, right. I guess it's still you're still composing it solo, right? You're just not doing it on the spot. You're doing it over time, even.
Hmm.
And get it develop. So that was, yeah, that really helped. Yeah, and I think that a lot of those, a couple of those, on the first record, that very first solo on EMD was, yeah, it took me about 6 months to put that thing together.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what? So yeah. So how has it all changed? I mean, for me, so I think one of my watershed moments was seeing the Republic of Strings in 2006
Wow.
with Tristan Claridge, Jeremy Kittle, and Scott Nygaard at Club
Hmm.
Passim. Dave Reiner took me to the show, and it was totally it was amazing. It was totally a watershed moment. I remember I had the recording, and um, one thing I think is interesting, or that a lot of that is written. I mean, you write a lot of this music down, right? People were reading. I remember
Yeah,
Jeremy was
yeah, we had,
reading,
yeah,
but it
right.
had the feeling of or orally learned folk music. So, how do you negotiate that as somebody who's going through styles? Presenting
Yeah,
charts, some people freeze up, right?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All the jokes, how do you make a guitar player stop playing?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, again, that a lot of this is, uh, you really, um, yeah, it takes time, but like going back and forth, I think it's always good to do as much just completely off the page playing as you can. I think it's really important to be able to learn a bunch of old time tunes or fiddle tunes or rock or whatever pop stuff, um, that you can do. Learn it by learn stuff by ear, and then like I would say start integrating chord charts and stuff. Once um, you got your ear stuff. You just kind of know how it feels and especially if you got a regular jam group or something like that, and then start thinking about, okay, well, we're going to have some new material or something, and we're going to be a little more complicated. There's a chart, and you might not even chart the whole tune out. You might just chart like there's like some weird, like a weird or like deep, hits or something,
Hmm.
syncopations. You know, chart that out or something like that, and then just kind of start slowly integrating that stuff in, and then at some point, um, there might be notes involved, right? There might be like a really complicated run. Yeah, you don't know anything about complicated. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you write those? You got to write them out, right?
Yeah, some of it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Because
but I
those are
also,
some of the
yeah.
most incredible, yeah, that interpolative stuff that you do is so unbelievably wonderful and quite, to me, it's like way beyond Zappa or anything like that. I don't know what the, and it's certainly, yeah, it's like completely. I mean, Captain Beefheart has got nothing on you. It's just, it's extremely, um, it's fantastic. It's like fucking quantum physics or something. Pardon my French. Um, it's really, really amazing. I love it.
But even for me, like with the notes, it's I still haven't like you talk to some people who the well, anyways, there's these people who reading notes to them is it might as well be ear, right? They see the page and they just hear the notes, and I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe you're like that,
that's
but
insane. I'm not like that at all. No, it takes me a while to puzzle things out. I was in a band with Tracy Silverman, and a couple of the guys in Turtle Island string quartet who, yeah, Tracy impressed me the most in
hmm,
that way. He could just. I remember the day we auditioned him. He just read down all the chart, and the Turtle Island. That was a lot of chart. There was a
yeah,
lot of notes. There was a lot of dots. There was a lot of chords. You had to be able to move in. Like we had to open stuff. We had to um, everything from hits to chord charts to just rough open kind of like, okay, this is where everybody goes crazy, to like extremely detailed, partsy stuff where everybody had a part and then it all fit together, um, counterpoint. And Tracy just kind of like, he just sailed through it. He said, oh, he's like playing, he's just reading. He'd never seen it before. He's like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's, he's commenting as he's reading and playing, sight
Wow.
reading. Yeah, that kind of stuff is amazing. And of course, he said, "Oh, well, it's easy. You just read ahead." Like, what? Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, right. Yeah, you just stand on your head, rub your stomach, and pat your head while you're, driving your car, and also sitting back in your office. That's all. Yeah, let's just do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a it can be learned. It's a really lot of mental discipline and focus required to read ahead. And
Yeah.
then of course, you got to be able to pull it off here. Just because
Right.
you know what's coming doesn't mean it's going to happen necessarily. So this is, again, takes as long as it takes. You start with the easier stuff. Maybe write something you already know. Like take a write out a fiddle tune that you already know how to play, and then we'll watch the notes go by, and while you're playing them, and go, okay, you start matching them up, and so yeah, for a lot of what we were doing with that band, it was just more for like just reminders, it's almost, after a while, it was almost like Dumbo and his feather, like he couldn't really fly until he was holding the feather in his trunk.
Is this Republic of Strings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like just a little bit reminded, you could just look at the,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay, we're starting on a B note. Okay, now I know the rest of the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of how that's my relationship to written music if I ever use it.
Yeah.
So, are you bringing charts to the Great Big Fiddle Hang?
Oh, we'll bring some chord charts. Maybe it really depends. I mean, it's so dependent on, and especially once you get into intermediate and advanced people, because everybody's so, they're already like pretty individualized,
Yeah.
it's not like a big amorphous group of beginners you can just tell the same thing to. So that's going to be interesting because we're really going to be, it's not a big camp, which is
Right.
great, so we'll be dealing with personality. We'll be dealing with like people that are like older, who are, individuals, personalities. They're going to have opinions. It's going to be interesting, and we're going to have to negotiate a lot of uh, interesting stuff. But I imagine there will be some really beautiful, friendships that come
Yeah.
out of this. People that discover each other, and yeah, we'll kind of adjust it to who's there. If nobody wants to look at dots, we'll eliminate the dots. We might move a little slower. Um, we'll hopefully we'll be able to do at least one. As you know, I feel like I'm in a movie where we're, like, here's the plot. You just have to explain them. As you know, Jim, we we have a we have a light drive that is not working now. It's like, and here come the Klingons. But and as you know, the Klingons are the bad guys. But um, what was I going? So yeah, it's really gonna be interesting how how we're gonna we're gonna have try to evolve a little bit of a new repertoire for the camp. Like everybody's gonna learn. Like we have to figure out how many tunes that we can reasonably inflict on these folks. But hopefully just get a few tunes in different styles that everybody just has to learn, like real fast, and maybe even we can do a little bit of a handout or some kind of thing to the campers before we even start, which would be ideal, if people can get like a little leg up on some of this material.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, there's another thing we have to have a meeting about, but yeah, so like there'll be like a shared repertoire. People that everybody's hopefully kind of equally, struggling, and then that's a nice place to come from because everybody's kind of in the same place. We're all kind of trying to work this stuff, sort of, we're just learning it, and then we fit it together, and then we modify, how we play it according to what is doable. in the space of 4 days.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting because that's kind of like just that's life right there.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, what where are you? I'm so excited about. I wish I could just be. The problem with teaching in a camp is that you don't get to like necessarily go to the other teachers' sessions. So I would love to just be on a fly on the wall for what you're doing with the guitar players
Yeah.
and think about what um, the styles would be. I don't um, I love that thing you were like when you go like when you're doing the drifters, you're so good at doing a very basic like that basic guitar thing, but then you just all of a sudden you go into kind of a Riley Puckett from Andromeda thing, which is just, I mean, old time guitar really does have a tradition of insanity,
Yeah. Right.
and radical, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in there, already. That's
Totally.
baked in. So, yeah, so I love that about that because that really gives you, like license to just be you and go a little crazy. So that's really cool.
Well, I feel like, as a teacher, if there's one thing I'm guilty of is that I don't impart enough patience on students. So I can dump material. Oh yeah, this is how you do it. Oh, it's bass runs are easy. X amount of notes above or below. You choose a set of are they going to be chromatic? Are they going to be a certain tonality? And good, that's it. That's all you need to know. See you later. Um,
Right.
so I'm excited to kind of um, try and bring some patience to the Great
Uh,
Big Fiddle Hang too, and kind of this idea that we have these intense 4 days of struggle,
yeah.
and we do dump a lot of information, but it's all kind of underpinned by, I think, I love what you said today. Just everything take it's going to take as long as it takes, and
Yeah.
if that's really transmitted, then I think people will get a lot out of it because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be
Oh,
so much
yeah,
cool
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's going to be so interesting, because everybody's. I suspect that we're going to have just a big full room of fully individuated people, whatever that means, you know. And yeah, and it really, I mean, for me, my, over time, the takeaway, from teaching all these camps, is that if you get them playing, that's people will usually be satisfied. If you just get them playing, whatever they're playing, just make sure they've got their instrument in their hands and they're doing something,
Yeah,
themselves. Yeah, that's been hard because I tend to kind of blather. I get on some kind of conceptual stick, and it's hard for me to shut up sometimes. So, but yeah, just you know, get people playing, and it'll help if if we get our repertoire thing together, and then we just pound people through the repertoire. You just say, okay, well, here's the melody, here's some chords. Let's play this. Okay, let's play a weird lick here or something.
yeah,
Try this. Yeah, um, yeah, and yeah, it's like it's the specific. The general. You're always looking for the. Yeah, I see that in you, Stash. You're like you're an anal. You analyze the stuff and you make generalizations based on. Is that deduction or induction? You're in an yeah, but you're you're really quick at making larger global conclusions based on a lot of specifics. And that's something that it comes with just thinking about stuff for a long time. You start thinking, you see the similarities, you see the categories, you start
yeah.
making up your own categories, and that's great. But that skips a lot of steps for people who
Yeah,
are struggling with the like. Remind me where the C sharp is.
totally. Yeah, cool.
yeah. So we're
And there's no substitute. You know, everybody's learning on YouTube now, but there's no substitute to just getting in the same room and
well,
working
yeah,
stuff out too. And I think that that's just, you know, I'm
yeah.
excited
That
about
is
that. It's like,
totally, you know, yeah. Just humans really do well with other humans.
yeah,
The most interesting thing to a human primate is another human
yeah.
primate.
Daryl, could I ask you one more question?
Yeah,
Um, because I got to get going kind of soon.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, could you help me improvise on the B part of Ride the Wild Turkey? And do you have a process that
Oh, the
you
B
could?
part. Are you talking about the like the weird part?
Yeah, I guess I think of that as the B part, but yeah. So I
Okay.
understand it's it's 8 bars, it
Uh-huh.
squares up, but I still get tripped up. And
Okay.
I've even made a lesson video on it, but I still can't really do it.
Wow. Well, I have kind of caved a little bit on that. Um, I'm gonna do it with the frets. Here, I've got a little tenor uke that's tuned like a violin, except an octave down. So, right. So it's really cool. So because it's like a mandolin, except you can muscle it around. You can show it who's boss pretty easily. And it's just impossible. It's like worse than a bass. So I really just think of it as like I make up little licks. Right? Just each chord just gets its lick. Right?
Okay.
Well, I think it's a good start. I think it's the place we kind of need to start because it's just yeah. Otherwise, if you're trying to make one long
Yeah.
thing, it's against the is what it really like yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's really that. Um, and so that's how that's usually where I'm coming. And then if I'm feeling great, or something like that, and I'm not on a gig and it's like all cool and you're just everybody's sitting around and doing it. And then I might just play whatever. I
Yeah.
just let the fingers do the walking and try not to think too much. But yeah, like keep get your little library of you can go up or like or right. Um, right, all the
Yeah.
just the shapes, and then then if you're doing the same shape for each pod, then yeah, then you're like oh, you're composing, you're thematically
Yeah.
consistent.
Right.
I'm thematically consistent, so screw you.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe when I go back to practice it, I'll just practice getting my 3 beat licks first. Dun dun
Yeah,
dun
yeah, get
dun
the
dun
theory going.
dun.
Yeah.
And then I got to get my 4 bar, my 4 beat lick for the next bit, and then my 6 beat lick. Is that how you think of the beats? One, two, three. One, two, three.
The
One,
way I
two, three.
count it is completely stupid, but it works for me. I go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Whoa.
1, 2, 3, and then if it's the head, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, ding.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, ding.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's and I've counted it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, ding. That also works.
Huh. Cool.
Actually, any number. I'm sorry. Yeah, but that's yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. I hear bands doing it, and like it really sounds intensely complicated. I was like, did I write that? Wow, I must be really fucking genius.
That's amazing. So many amazing. I mean, yeah, I want to ask you about how you think of improvising on key signature, all these amazing classics, but
Oh, oh, thanks.
maybe we'll get to some of that at the Great Big Fiddle
Oh
Hang.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Check in with Alex on that because that guy, man, yeah, just I couldn't love that guy more. And if I tried,
Yeah,
he is so amazing.
it is. All right, Daryl.
All
So,
right, this has been great, Stash. I'm so looking forward to this.
yeah, me
June
too.
14th to 18th.
And guitar players, fiddle players, still a few spots left. Great Big Fiddle
Yeah,
Hang.
yeah, and the private bathrooms, man.
Yeah,
That's gonna happen. It's not like other camps. You don't have to like wander in there and expect to find some other guy, I mean, some hairy guy without his shirt on. It's yeah. You just
yeah,
and you can practice. I mean, that's where the fiddle
that's
sounds
right.
best
That's
in the
right. That's where
bathroom.
it's at, unless you have a four-story stairwell. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thanks, Stash, for putting
Yeah.
this together. Really love this.
All right, Daryl.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch, man.
See
I'll
you in
see
the
you
future.
very soon.
Okay. Great,
All
man.
right, see you, man.
Bye.